to have you join us this afternoon. And from wherever you're watching us, we want to thank you and we want to say hello and happy Sabbath. This Sabbath afternoon, I am joined by a lovely, lovely panel. I am your host, Nkatha Ogutu, and I will ask my panelists, beginning from my right-hand side, to introduce themselves as we delve into this final program. Blessing.
Happy Sabbath, Church. My name is Blessing Dagbare, and I'm a member of New Life. Indeed, it's a blessing to be here, and I thank God for, giving us the grace to fellowship together again. Amen. Be blessed.
Good evening. My name is John Omo, a member of this church, and it's been a blessed 2 weeks, and we do hope that whatever we have for ourselves this evening will be one that glorifies God. Thank you very much.
Amen. Jim? As we wait for Jim's mic, we could ask Dr. Tari to introduce herself. Okay, I think the communication team is working on the microphones. As we wait for them to work on the microphones, we have been learning a lot, especially in this last week, issues to do with the family tree, issues to do with our young people, the adolescents, the youth, issues to do with the singles, issues to do with raising a virtuous woman, a man of valor, and we have had your challenges and we have given practical solutions. Now, viewer, today we want to throw the mantle back to you. We want to ask you, the viewer, you, the church, you, the man of God, you, the woman of God, you, the youth, you, the child. We want to ask you, who will take up the mantle? Who will take the responsibility of standing up for the truth? Who will be courageous to change the status quo? Who will be courageous to make a change where a change is necessary? And I want to begin by posing a question. Many questions came through the week, and I want to begin by posing a question from one of our viewers, Kevin Mwangi. And this question, I will pose it to Elder Omo. And this first question is, what would you advise? Kevin is asking, what would you advise those who are looking for strictly and extremely super and virtuous women? Elder, what would you tell Kevin Mwangi and the young men out there?
Thank you very much, Nkatha. In my life, I've never had so many adverbs in a single sentence, and so not to disappoint Kevin, who is looking for an extremely properly groomed, virtuous lady. Let me start with a disappointment that they don't exist. And the reason they don't exist is for the reason that we are in a world that is awash with sin. And so if such people were there, we would not have had Christ. Those such people are made. And so you cannot pick them like a ripe orange or a ripe banana in a tree that has not been watered or cultivated or toiled upon by someone. But not to disappoint you, God created Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden. And so for God to see that Adam was lonely and needed a helper, God saw that to get a helper is a good thing. And so God purposed that Eve would only find Adam in the Garden of Eden. So Kevin, if you're looking for an extremely virtuous woman, first of all, they don't exist because they've not been born. And that's why we're in this program, to educate ourselves, to be people of virtue. We continuously educate ourselves, we continuously hone our skills, and we aim for that higher ground. But the mark that has been left for us is that of Christ. And so without the Spirit of Christ, both in Kevin and the person Kevin is looking for, that person doesn't exist. But for you, there's some fortune in getting to the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden is the church. And so if you're looking for virtue, try the church. Because that is where Eve found Adam. You could have found Adam wandering somewhere outside the garden. But such people are not yet there. And if at all you want to find one, please be one yourself first. Because you cannot find virtue when you yourself is not a virtuous man. And so the point I would make to Kevin is that look for Eve, or Eve to look for Kevin in the Garden of Eden. But first of all, Kevin or Eve that he's looking for must be a person of virtue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elder. I like that point, that even Kevin must equally be a man of valor. Thank you so much. I pray that the mics are working. Daktari and Jim. Jim, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Sabbath. Jim Omolo here. Happy to fellowship with you this afternoon.
Happy Sabbath. Rose Misati here. I believe I'm not new to many of you. I'm glad to be here once again.
Yes, indeed. Daktari has been such a blessing to us throughout the week. She has handled many issues, some of which have been very, very thorny, but we are so glad that we've been able to have this platform. We are very grateful to the church that we have had this platform and we've been able to engage on those issues. And to continue with that discussion that Elder has just alluded to, there was also a discussion between some of our viewers. I think there was Faith Mwenda and George Maangi. And their question was, how do we keep a focus on singlehood when the stereotype is so real? How do we keep a focus on singlehood when the stereotype is so real? And even as Kevin was asking for a strictly and extremely super virtuous woman, I want Blessing to tell us, how do we keep a focus on singlehood?
Thank you for that question. I don't know if I want to answer that question by saying we should keep a focus on singlehood. Because otherwise, why are we keeping a focus on singlehood? I mean, we all know in the society today, singles are looked upon as, those ones who has issues. Especially if you're above 30 and you're still single, you're like, this person, akona shida. So you don't want to put your focus on the problem, on the issues. Granted to say singlehood is not a problem. It's a season of life. It's a gift in itself, because the days of your singlehood is when you actually get to do things that otherwise you would not have been able to do when you are married. So it's not a problem, it's a gift. If you look at it as a gift, then it wouldn't be such a burden as society placed on it. So I wouldn't say we should focus on it so much, because then it becomes like an identity that, oh, I'm single, everything I do just comes under this umbrella of singlehood, so I cannot do certain things, I cannot invest, I cannot make long-term plans because I am single. So I would say let the focus be on Christ. Yes, if we are to focus on ourselves as singles, let it be a stage of self-development, so to speak. Let's learn to develop ourselves, establish ourselves, grow in faith, be that virtuous woman and that man of valor, and then, let our focus be centered on Christ. because only when our focus is on Christ would we have balance. So to answer that question, I'll just say, let the focus be on Christ and not on the singlehood. Amen?
Amen, amen. Thank you so much, Blessing. I will turn to Jim because, yes, let us look at it as a blessing and as a phase of life. But I know for men, and especially in the African setup, just as you are leaving campus, just as we are crowning you, in fact, even for some of you, even as before you're crowned from campus, you're being asked, so where is she? Before even you come from your little SQ and establish yourself, before you even tarmac and actually get the job, there is that pressure. Jim, what do you want to tell us about this pressure that we are putting on young men and young women and, asking them to leave this singlehood, which Blessing has said should look at as a blessing?
Okay. I think, first of all, I will say that the problem is not really the pressure. I think the problem is the expectations behind the pressure. And what I mean is that there are expectations that are really unrealistic. Someone could be putting pressure on you to help you grow, to lead you or to counsel with you through the process, or rather to give you ideas on what you can do while you're still waiting. But I think there's also that pressure that has the expectations of, I know so and so, I want you guys to meet, and then I am hoping that this is actually going to give birth to something. And before you know it, people are now avoiding each other, or as we say in our world, people ghost each other. Someone started the conversation and then it's like coming so fast. I wasn't expecting something to just pick up immediately, So for me, I will say the real issue with the pressure is the expectations, and especially those expectations that are unrealistic. But I also believe that singlehood, as she said, is a growth stage. And it's because God is working to actually bless every single person with the best blessing that He can have for them in the fastest time possible. Yeah? How much, or rather how you think about that timeline is dependent on God, really. God can make others move faster. God can make others go slower. And all in all, while God is leading that ship, the beauty is that God is actually growing the person. God is actually preparing the person for the next stage of life. Yeah, but finally, I will say to the single person, since this question was directed to single folks that are on this panel, I think the burden is on us to actually ask ourselves the question, what do we want this stage to look like for us? Do we want it to look desperate? Do we want it to look as if there is nothing in life beyond marriage? Or do we want it to look as if really life cannot continue if singlehood is not, quote unquote, escaped? I think that burden redefines the question, because the next burden that I will have as a person then becomes, how do I grow through this process? How do I counsel with God and counsel with others so that when this process eventually comes to an end, I am the best product that I can be? Yeah.
Wow, Jim, that is very, very good. I like the points that you have brought out. What is in it for you in this process? What is your growth? What is your purpose? How should it look like? And even during the week, Daktari actually talked about growing yourself and healing yourself. And I could see as you were talking, she was smiling. And I know she has something to add to that. Daktari.
I just want to say that there will always be stereotypes. Whatever stage that you go, when you get married, there will be stereotypes. Are you married to your community? Who are you married to? You get a child. If it's a girl, when are you getting a boy? If it's a boy, when are you getting a girl? If you have one, when are you getting another? You get two, when are you getting a third one? You get four. They ask, which president are you looking for? Are you getting a football team? So there will just be always something. So I just want to say that even as you grow yourself, remember that you need to validate yourself so that you're not relying on external validation. Because the same people want you to be a certain way. They're the same ones who will say you rushed to get married. You got married because of money. You got married because of beauty. You got married because, I don't know, of anything and everything. But if you have already validated yourself and you're growing in Christ, no matter what people say, yes, you're a human being and it may get to you, but it will not paralyze or even overwhelm you. Yes.
Wow. Thanks, Daktari. Very true indeed. It doesn't matter what you do, there'll be stereotype. And I'm glad you have brought that out because even during the week, there were many calls that came through. And some of the viewers were actually so sad that where they should find comfort, especially in the church, they have been discussed in manners that, cause them so much pain and affliction. And there's so much tongue lashing, to the extent that these people who are actually being talked about, some of them even want to commit suicide. Daktari, what can you tell us as a community, as a church, about tongue lashing?
Let me just say that church is a hospital for sinners. The most wounded people, by the way, and I say this without fear of contradiction, they're in the church. It is sad because people come to church seeking comfort, but that is the place that will hurt you the most. Just like home, that is where you will be hurt the most. I just want to say that as you come to church, have your focus clear. Are you coming to seek to be loved, to be appreciated, to be praised? Or are you coming to worship God, to serve Him, to be a blessing to somebody else? And perhaps, just perhaps, if you find that one person, I've seen some people have ministries called A Few Good Men, based in the story of Elijah. For me, I just say that if you can find 1-2 people that you share values and you're headed on the same direction, that is much more than enough. In fact, the Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered. The heavenly quorum is 2 or 3. You're already one. You just need to get one person. I've remembered something that I've just been reflecting. Our last born now turned 9 years. And when we are in church, my husband and I, what has been happening is that if the child wants to go and eat, he will tell the dad, Daddy, I want to eat. So they go, he feeds him. If he wants to go to the washroom, he will ask the daddy to take him. That has always been the case. And for me, I thought it makes sense because this is a boy child. So it makes sense. He's being taken by the daddy. Until one time, some women in the church faced me and they said, why don't you get more children? I have 4 children, by the way. Why don't you get more children? I said, why? They said, because you have support. I said, which support? They said, your husband takes care of the child. He brings the child to the class. He helps you. I said, he helps who? What is he helping? It's his child. So who is he helping, actually? In fact, I'm the suitable helpmeet. I'm the one helping because the child is his. So who am I helping? He said, yeah, we always look when he comes for classes. It's him with the child. He takes the child. He's with the child everywhere. And we wonder why you can't get more children because you have support. And so you can imagine, for me, I'm thinking it's a good thing because he's being involved raising his boy child. And here people are feeling, you woman, you're sitting on your husband and you're refusing to get more children and he's helping you. So no matter what you do, I just want to say, somebody will always feel differently. And during the week we said the area somebody struggles with is the same area that they will criticize you on. So check carefully. The person who is criticizing you as a single is very unhappily married. Most likely, the person who is happily married, they even have got no time or even opportunity or space to even think about your status. Thank you.
Indeed, Rose, when you are happy and content, really, you do not look over your shoulder to your neighbor's problems. You're happy and content. And while we are at the issue of the singles, I know that we have been asked, most of us have been asked, especially in the SDA church, you must marry from the church. you must marry a boy or a girl from the church. And of course, there is the other issue, like Rose has said, are you marrying from your community? Are you marrying from your tribe? Are you marrying from your country? Blessing, tell us, what are some of the issues the young ladies and young men are facing out there when it comes now to, yes, I am ready and I want to choose a life partner?
That's a very interesting question. As I'm still living through it, I feel like, this is just me like putting myself out there. But like you rightly said, it's a challenge. You meet people who, they're interested in you and you're interested in them, but for some reason, the parents just think because you're not from their tribe, or in my case, because you're not from the same country, it wouldn't work, So those are some of the challenges, and also we have challenges of young men not wanting to commit. There's this thing among the young people. If you ask any young Adventists today, they'll tell you sometimes our men just do not want to commit. Other times you have young men talking to 2, 3, 4 ladies. All of a sudden you think in your head you're in a relationship with someone, and all of a sudden they are getting married, and you're wondering, okay, what happened? So these are issues we deal with on day-to-day basis. So young people, and there's the issues. Of course, I'm speaking from the side of the lady, but I'm sure the men has their own challenges as well, whether being it not having a car, not owning a car, why are you talking to me? Go get a car, then come back and talk to me. Or you're not doing well, you're still living in that boys' quarter of yours. So why are you talking to me? I want men with, I don't know, a Mercedes or whatever. So these are some of the issues we are dealing with. And sometimes we bury our heads in the sand, but they are real and they're affecting our young people today. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you, Blessing. And let me come to Jim, because, Jim, you talked about ghosting. And I can hear Blessing saying, sometimes a young man is speaking to 2, 3 ladies, he's not committing, and before you know it, he's walking down the aisle with somebody else who you probably had no clue. What are some of the issues, or what are some of the issues that are making the men not commit? The young men, when they are ready to?
That's a difficult question. Almost feels like I'm putting myself in the frying pan, because after this, someone is going to check. So, which was your reason? Anyways, I think there are a number of reasons. I think one of those least spoken reasons is the scars that people have had through their lives, and the fact that those scars have made them be insecure in different ways. And they haven't successfully healed from those scars. So he's weighing and he's seeing, if I commit right now, looks like I'm going to, build from bottom up. If I commit right now, looks like I'm not going to make it, because all along I've been living the lie. It's all been a facade. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason, as she alluded to, is the dynamics around the financial clock. And this is really depends on individuals. There are people who, they are in their dreams, they are hoping that they will get married only when they have achieved 1, 2, 3 things. For reasons like they feel that will offer more stability, they feel that will be more acceptable, they feel it will be easier to find someone, like she said, because if you're up there, looks like everyone wants to associate with you. But then I think there's also the other reason of the fact that people are still growing, and in that growth process, all of a sudden they think they have so many options to choose from. So this one I call decision fatigue. Much as it sounds selfish, I think it's true that sometimes everyone is suggesting someone, and you're like, okay, so which of these options is the best option? So let me ride with those three. I think I wouldn't say whether I fall in any of those three, but I think those are the three reasons that I have observed. Yeah.
To keep you safe, we shall stop at those three in case there's someone ticking. So clearly, blessing, it's not even commitment issue. Now we understand it's called decision fatigue. So you're out there and you have these three and you're asking which one is the best fit. Daktari, I have had Jim talk about decision fatigue, and also because you want to first get to a certain level financially, career-wise, so that then you're able to get the right person. I don't know, is there really a right time for you to get the right person? Say, for example, if you have completely healed your past wounds, your relationship wounds, is there a right time? Is it when you have made the money? Because then I'm sure you will get the wrong partner because they're looking at that Mercedes-Benz Blessing is talking about. Or what's your advice for the young people?
For me, I would say that people's situations are different. People get ready at different times. The only caution I would give is if somebody is below 25. If probably they're in school or they're below 25, and there is a psychology behind that. Under 25, the decisions you're making, they are based on what we call the mammalian brain. What feels good, you do it. But your thinking brain matures generally by 25 and above. So whenever I have young people asking me, when should I begin dating, as in seriously, or courtship, whatever you call it, I tell them the moment you hit 24, 25, you are ready in terms of you can make a decision. And you can confirm, because most early marriages do not survive. If they survive, it's basically for purposes of raising children or society or whatever. The person you loved at 14 is not the same person you loved at 18, not the same person at 21, and not even the same person at 24, if you think through. So that is what I would say. But however, in terms of, I need to acquire this, acquire that, perhaps it depends on how somebody feels, but I just want to say that it's important to grow together. Because sometimes when you get somebody after you have gotten things, you may want to ask where your security lies. There are people who are defined by the externalities of what they have. The money, the car, the house. And yet all other ground is sinking sand. Money is not permanent. Your car is not permanent. Your job is not permanent. What if when you are married, things fall apart? What will you do at that point? So for me, I feel it should be somebody who is growing. For as long as you're growing and the other person is growing. Remember during the week we said, and I will say this again for ladies, that men are not poverty eradication programs for lazy women. Everybody should work with their own hands, provide for themselves. Nobody at all should depend on another person. And sometimes I wonder, because I'm seeing like the children we are raising, we are educating them, paying school fees, they are going to the best schools, exposing them to the best opportunities. So then what makes my daughter, who had equal opportunity, to wait upon somebody's son to provide for her? And yet I've invested in them equally, they had opportunity. And I said, if both of you agree that one will not work for some time to take care of the family, and it can be either of you, it's okay. But then to say that I want to have this, and then I bring you, are you bringing a piece of furniture into the house? Are you bringing a piece of wood? Are you bringing another feather on your cap? Or are you bringing a partner so that together you can work together? And whatever you have belongs to the two of you. That would be my take.
Wow, yes. So it's a partnership. So either of you can stay home and take care of the family while the other, goes out to get the bread. Now, a very important point that you have brought out, that yes, we are giving equal opportunity to the boy and the girl child. And yes, we have drummed up about the girl child and girl child empowerment. And we have seen that now we have brought up young men who are not able to express themselves. Our girls are expressive, they are outgoing, you know, and they are quick to grasp a concept and actually run with it. Unfortunately, we have seen that the boy child is lagging behind. And we are raising boys, and it's all over. In fact, in Kenya, it's all over. And Elder was quick to remind me that it's not only in the cities, but it is even in the villages, where the boy child is not going to school. They are involved in alcohol and drug abuse. They are involved in betting. And therefore, we are raising boys who want the benefit of the relationship without actually taking the responsibility. Jim, as a young man, what would you say about this rampant issue that is being seen of the young boys, both in the cities and in our villages?
Well, it's a sad state of affairs. I think the next few years to come, this problem is going to become bigger than it now seems. Perhaps right now it looks like it's a localized thing within homes, so parents have to fight with their children about drugs and all that. But eventually what is happening is that we are redefining our norms and our ways of life as a society. And in the next years to come, then definitely none of us is going to be safe. Whether you are sharp or you are not, so long as our society is bringing up more and more challenged men, or men who are not really matching up to the expectations of manhood, there is great danger in that. But allow me to say as well that thinking about this whole situation, I think there are many reasons why it has evolved and the reasons why it's equally growing. And I think one of those fundamental issues that we probably would want to think about critically is whether our men are having clear vision or clear understanding of the meaning of life. Because I think that is fundamentally broken at many levels, because if all of us would be asking ourselves the question, why am I alive? What is the meaning of life? Then it's a value question. We would be seeking for things that add value, things that are more productive. So I think that's one of the, beyond the fact that there's lack of mentorship, beyond the fact that boys are naturally aggressive than ladies and would like to explore, especially the evil things, given the benefit of the carnal nature in man. Beyond those issues, I think for me the fundamental question would be, what is the meaning of your life as an individual? Yeah, and I see Elder Omo is quite excited to weigh in on this.
Thank you, Jim. In fact, I wanted to turn over to Elder Omo because you have brought out the issue of security as well as mentorship. Elder.
Thank you very much. Over the last couple of years, if you look at the results that come out of our high schools especially, or even primary schools, you see a lot more of ladies, girls performing averagely I would say, and I don't have empirical figures on this, but you hear of more of lady schools performing much better than boys schools. I think this has largely been, or in some part been contributed by the sort of interventions that the society has taken on the girl child. I mean, in the 90s, perhaps 80s onwards, there's been a lot of, direct interventions, some of them donor funded, targeting the girl child. And for good reasons, that we came out of a patriarchal society where the role of the girl child was seen as, go fetch water, go fetch firewood. So as they come out of school, primary school for that matter, that is my age, we would take a bath as our sisters are going to fetch firewood or water to prepare the meal that we will eat. And so they grew up perhaps knowing that is our place. And for us, we grew up knowing that our place is to go and look after the cattle. And that is the society that we got socialized in. Now, the sort of interventions that I've talked about have improved the lot of the girl child quite a bit. And I see it in some of the schools that I support in the village. I see it in my own household with the girls that live with me. And quite expressive, quite outgoing, willing to take responsibility without being told, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I don't know whether we as a society, because whether you go to Nyeri, where we had the unfortunate statement of nitakatakata, to Nyanza, to Western, you'll get the boy child on the side of the road playing a jua, playing draft, or doing betting. It's unfortunate. But I think we need a sort of a government-supported, church-supported interventions that target the boy child in a special way, because we are losing a value that, as Jim says, as a society will come to regret, really, really, really regret. And let me just say that at the level of the church, we can do our bits in our little ways from the household, because that's where stewardship begins. That's where mission begins. We can do our little bit. If you have a boy and a girl, give them responsibilities equally. So that not that the boys are sleeping and the girls are mopping their own room. The boys are sleeping and the girls are preparing the food that they will themselves eat. So I think we need to assign responsibilities in such a way that we inculcate the responsibility that our girls have acquired over the years into the boy child, so that they know you cannot have anything good without toiling for it. Because as Jim said, or as you said, we've raised men who want the goodies, but not the responsibility that comes with getting those goodies, including, objectification. I had that from Daktari over the objectification of, you see a woman and what you see is her body, nothing else. And the benefit you can get from that body. But that benefit needs to come with responsibilities, knowing that, yes, Eve was given to Adam as a helper. And so the primary responsibility of taking care rests with the boy child, with the man. And mentorship comes into play here. And I think as a church, we are doing our little bits in some way. But I think we need to have a definite program where we mentor the boy child from whatever stage. And it's a graduated class where you come from this class, you get to the next level until we see you off if your desire is to get married. So I think we need to have such a system instituted in all our churches where you have a graduated scheme for mentoring the boy child. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder. Yes, Jim, you have something to say?
I'd like to add something to the mentorship that Elder has spoken about. And I think just two ideas I have about mentorship and how better it can be. Because first of all, I think mentorship is all about sharing stories. Because counsel is derived from stories and experiences. And I think one of the struggles that men will generally have is not willing to talk about the gory details of life, things that make them appear as if they failed, perhaps because those things are still alive, even in their current state. But having that conversation where there is no shame, because I am regretting that this happened to me, and I'm just hoping that someone is not going to make the same mistake that I made. So the details are important. The principles are good, but the details are important. And then secondly, I think mentorship needs to get to the next level of not just finding those that are available, but also looking for those that are unavailable. I mean, what you're dealing with is a crisis. And the thing is that none of us is secure. So if you're only looking for those that are available, what about those who are unavailable, who unfortunately are actually growing in numbers? Because they have been cultured to think that so long as you're tainted with your mess or your challenges or your failures, don't speak about it. And I think that's where ladies actually excel more than men, that they will go to the details and derive principles and stories from those details. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I can see Dr. is really, she has a burning point.
I also want to add a point to what they have said. I totally agree with what they have said. And I also want to say that as women and as girls, we need to raise the standard for our sons, for our husbands, and for our brothers. What do I mean when I raise the standard? I mean, for example, if you're a girl and you've gone to university, you have not been sent to cook for anybody, to wash clothes for anybody. I used to see that and I would get so bewildered. We have been sent and we are in school studying, the same course, and here is a girlfriend, boyfriend. The girl washes for the boy, cooks for the boy, carries his books to class, cleans his room, makes his bed, and I'm asking myself, have you been sent here to be a wife? And also, even as mothers, as we raise sons, I'm raising 3 sons. Right now, we don't have a domestic worker, and we divide chores. We say, we need to cook. Someone will cook, whoever is gifted. Someone will wash dishes. Someone will do clothes. Someone will do this. And so we all do. And they see even their father doing. Because as Elder said, I want to say, you cannot just have things ready. You must work for them. And if you're not washing the dishes, they will wait for you. And the next meal you may not eat because you didn't wash the dishes. So let's raise lovingly and gently, let me just add, let's raise the standard. Because human beings change as a result of pain. When the pain of remaining the same is more than the pain of changing, then you opt to change. Hardly does a human being just change when there is no pain. And even as we have said, empowerment programs for the girl child, most of us, we were made to work hard because when we were in that environment, patriarchal system, and you're seeing what is waiting you, toil and pain and abuse and childbirth and everything, and you're like, no, I'd better read. Because this way, I'm going to get out of this environment. So let's create gentle pain so that there will be then a need, a motivation to change to the next level.
Thank you, thank you. And I hear a lot of instant gratification coming from both, even the girl child as well as the boy child, because there's a girl who has, yes, been given equal opportunity and is sitting and waiting for that instant gratification. There's a young man who has come from the village and today he wants to buy the same vehicle that Elder Omo is driving. Today, he wants to live in the palatial house that so-and-so is. Because we call it, I think, microwave generation. Elder, what can you tell both the young girl and the young man about instant gratification?
I think the general rule essentially is that anything that you have not toiled for, that you've not spent your effort or energy or mind on, is quicksand. And so we have people that you support in your families, and that's a form of mentorship. You need to let them know that Dr. Misati, it has taken you this many 20-something years to be where you were, even to wear that cloth that you're wearing. You didn't just pick it. It costs money. And so for as long as we pamper, and I use that word carefully, for as long as we pamper people, for that long they'll know that, yes, an entitled kid mentality. If I want this, I will get it. So let us give, but also measurably, in the sense that you want to let people whom you support know clearly that it is painful to acquire. It takes effort to acquire in such a way that they will know that if I don't work for this, I will not get it. If I don't work to live like this, I will not get that sort of a lifestyle that I'm looking for. And we see this not just with young men, by the way. It's a disease that has engulfed this society and is the root cause for corruption. It is the greatest cause of corruption because people want quick fixes. I want something without putting effort to it. So for as long as we live in that fantasy world where you can get anything as long as you want it, then for that long we'll have corruption in our midst. And so we need to let right from our families, our kids know that it requires effort to even get a dress. And so if it takes a son or a daughter to wash a car, for them, after some age, of course, age-appropriate sort of work, that you need to clean the compound. And for that, you'll get some reward. That's appropriate training. You're preparing that particular person for the life of, yes, for me to get a benefit, I've got to work for it. But for as long as we get a society where we don't focus on merit, we focus on maybe the person that you know to get a job, the person that your uncle to get a job, and not so much because of the knowledge that you have for that job, then we'll be breeding corruption. Unfortunately, that is the nature of our society we are building, but it's again unfortunate, and we need to do something about it from our little ways, from our own families. And again, that's where it begins. We need to let our kids know that it requires hard work for you to benefit from something. Thank you.
Actually, sorry, yes, blessing.
Praise God. Okay. Yes, okay, I just want to quickly add something. While you were speaking, Elder, the term toxic charity came to mind. We've all heard of toxic charity. And I feel like as a society, especially in Africa, there's this entitlement ideology that when we want something, we can just reach out to whoever when we want a job, as opposed to working hard or, doing what it requires of us to get the job. We just talk to Mr. So-and-so, that person in charge, just assume. And when they don't give it to us, we sort of now we are upset. How dare you not give me that job? How dare you not giving to what I'm asking for? And this whole time, we are just seated waiting for things to be handed down to us. Whether we are in a rich family, I'm speaking as young people now, whether we are in the rich family where our father just hands us the key to the car or the expensive iPhone. So we just assume life is like that. So we go through life waiting for people to give us things. And when we don't get it, we are angry, we are upset all of a sudden, thinking, what is wrong with that person? But that's not how life is supposed to be. I was reminded of a situation that happened to me when I was really young. I remember my father died just when I was about to do what you term KCSE. And yes, I wanted money. It was for exams. Being this person was in business with my father, where they had a partnership. So I assume, I'm going to write exams. I'm not asking for much, just money to sit for an exams. And he just said no. He said no, and then he went on and on about how, he's not responsible for me and everything. I was hurt. I was a teenager. I think I was, 16 or so. I was hurt, and I felt upset, but that taught me one thing in life, not to depend on people for anything. If I want something, I go out there and work for it. And if I can't afford it, I just sit, I'm sure I can survive without it. So I feel like as young people, and Africans, we need to get past that mindset of always waiting for the Western world, for people to, Narambe is right. I know as Africans, we all depend on each other, but still there's the element of always looking to others to provide our needs, to supply our needs, when we can actually go out there, work for it. And, there's a satisfaction, as Elder talked about, of actually, when you work for something, you appreciate it. You appreciate it because you have earned it. And then also, I think this also brings in the terms of ladies looking to men for fulfilling all their needs. Dr. You talked about, why would you expect the man to be what? Your provider, you've gone to school, you're empowered. Why are you sitting and waiting for people to do everything for you? So it's one aspect I think like we as the microwave generation to just work at. We need to work at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blessing. That's wonderful because, yes, as Africans, and especially we feel very entitled to, yes, I am so-and-so's child, and because my father knows your father, I will get a job. And you see, it makes us lazy, it makes us entitled, and we don't actually live to our fullest potential. But I want to twist the question now. I want to twist it and throw it back to you, the youth. When your parents now, as a trophy, want you because so-and-so's child is a doctor, so-and-so's child is an engineer, when now your parents throw you into a career that, you're not up to, you're not qualified for, you're not passionate about. Blessing, what can you tell us about that?
That's a very interesting question. It's tough. Being somebody who, I'm a nurse by the way, I'm a registered nurse, and growing up, I'd always wanted to do law, but again, parents' manipulation. I was manipulated, so to speak, to become a nurse because it was my mom's dreams. She wanted to be a nurse, she couldn't do it then. Yeah, but anyways, I think parents should. We are in a world where there's so much information. A lot of young people are exposed to a lot of things, and many times I feel like as parents, I am not one, but I've seen it. We feel like our children are not, smart enough. You talked about, Dr. You talked about, getting to 25 to be able to make certain decisions. But I feel, of course, not in all situations. Yes, there's the exemption, right? So many times we're exposed to a lot of information, and young people today know what they want. Yes, as parents, we are supposed to guide and counsel our children, but these elements of forcing or blackmailing or sort of, what's the word? It's like my way or the highway, And I've seen a lot of people who has, and from people I know who has gone, whose life I would say is amiss because of this system or idea. I know someone who wanted to do something. I think they wanted to do business, but their parents insisted on them being a medical doctor. And they actually went for their parents, but they couldn't stand blood. They couldn't stand the sight of blood, and then also a sterile environment. You walk into the hospital, you can smell antiseptic and all of that, the cleaning agent. They can't stand it. So they finished, and then they just, say, here is what you wanted. This is your degree, but I can go pursue what I want to do right now. So, and looking at that, it's all wasted years, right? If you look at Erickson's developmental stages of development, we have that stage of, what is it called, initiative and guilt, and then independence, or is it on autonomy versus shame? So sometimes we need to let our young people make certain decisions, of course, within boundaries. And why it talks about this in Great Controversy, I believe that any religion, anything that has force in it, is not the Spirit of God. So sometimes we need to listen to them. Of course, within boundaries. I'm not saying, parents, let your children run wild and be whatever they want to be. I'm talking about giving them an ear. And if they know what they're talking about, if they have they have a plan, they seem mature, they know what they want to do, then of course, by all means, help them reach that goal, as opposed to say, I don't want to listen, I don't care what you want, I don't care what you think, you know, it's what I say or nothing goes. So yes, that's just what I have to say on that.
Elder, you look like you have a burning point before I get the professional view from Daktari.
No, I totally agree with her. The society has certain expectations, and people will talk. People will have expectations, whatever the circumstance. And so, as a parent, it is okay. It's okay to have expectations on a child. But it is not okay to force a child to your expectations. And so I think it takes communication, it takes a discussion, it takes a conversation between the parties that are involved in terms of what is ideal for life. Again, there is an element of mentorship here, and I see a lot of it. Not a one-off sort of a process, but it's a process that needs to be inculcated in certain family values. As a child grows up, you discuss what do you want to be. How about if you see it differently? How about, and there's no harm giving examples of people or telling stories of people who've had such experience or done such courses. And so for me, I see no problem in a parent discussing such a thing with a child. And you never know, light can come out of such a discussion to say, yeah, Dad, I see your point of view, I think it's right. Or my son or my daughter, I see your point of view, I think you are right, let's pursue it. But whatever your hand findeth to do, please do it well. Because some people have used such opportunities as excuses for not being the best that they can be, that they are destined to be. And so whether as a parent, whether as a child, if you've chosen a course, please get to be dedicated to it. I shared earlier this morning the example of Elisha and Elijah. You know, Elisha was a student of Elijah for 6 years. Most of the prophets had schools. And it takes that much experience to do the sort of things Elisha did, sort of getting a double portion and sort of outshining the mentor in terms of some of the works that he undertook as a prophet. So let's do whatever we've agreed to do and do it diligently. Do it well as young people. Because therein is the virtue of hard work, the virtue of knowing that you cannot get a benefit without being responsible for whatever you've committed to do. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Be the best sweeper, be the best engineer, be the best doctor. Daktari, what can you tell parents?
Thank you so much. I agree with what they are saying. A parent who blackmails or manipulates a child to do something because it's a dream that they did not achieve, that is an unhealthy parent. And that's why we kept saying that if you don't heal, you're going to pass your intergenerational dysfunctions to the next generation. Because your child is different, opportunities are different, and priorities are different. Now, speaking as a parent and somebody who mentors parents in terms of raising a highly effective generation, I want to say that's a very dangerous mistake that parents make. We over-control, we over-nurture, we over-protect our children, we raise them without skills. They can be intelligent in terms of book smart, but they are not street smart. And I wish I can tell you how many young people I have who are in big professions, but totally dysfunctional. Their lives are apart. You know, they have literally fallen apart because they are intelligent, they were made to do this, all these courses, they have the job, but they are on a path of self-destruction. So it is not right. And the decision I was talking about making at 25, I'm talking about marriage. Because again, you cannot marry when you cannot even provide for yourself. Sometimes I've seen young people, they are maybe in school and they're saying, we want to get married, we want to wed. What's your budget? 1 million. How much do you have? Nothing, honestly speaking. And as a church, we even want to fundraise, we even want to bulldoze people to contribute, and the owners of the wedding have nothing. So you contribute, you wed them. Then suddenly they even have no mattress to sleep on. Then they get married. They get pregnant. Maternity they can't afford. Then they begin calling, my wife is here in maternity, unajua mtu unisaidie. Do you know raising a child is a mortgage? For the next 20 years, you're paying a mortgage. Do you know how expensive it is? So for me, I say, if you can't afford a wedding, honestly, you cannot afford a child. Because the point is, you cannot want to get ahead and engage in a sexual activity that you're not prepared for the consequences. So that's what I'm saying, that you need to be at a point that, first of all, you can take care of yourself and support each other and take care of the person that is coming, okay? However, it is important for children to make decisions growing up as parents, as they have said, with mentorship. Personally, I have never seen the need to choose a school for a child because I went to my dream school and I did my dream course. So I asked from around class 7, which high school do you want to go to? They choose, because again, we talk about this school is like this and that, and you expose, they say this school. You know how many marks? My kids are here, they are listening, and they'll confirm. How many marks do you know that school requires? This amount of marks. I will provide the books, a conducive environment, your work is to read, I will pay school fees. When the results come, if you're not taken to that school and you're taken to another one, my friend, you will go there. Unless it's a matter of life and death, or you are sick so you can't stand a certain environment, you will go there. So you go to the high school and provided the fees. Which course do you want to do? I want to do this course. Then we talk about it. Why? Because maybe I'm gifted this way and that, environment. How is the environment? What grade does it require? This grade. So you work for it. So you earn the grade and you get to the course that you want. So I know there are many parents who have unrealized dreams. And I say for such parents, come to terms with your history. Accept that you never became that nurse, you never became that pilot, but your child is not an appendage. They are not an extension of yourself. You are simply a steward, and you will account to God. It's all about God. And as I said during the week, you are not cloning a child, into your own likeness. You are raising a child in the model of Jesus Christ. It's really not about you. But the moment you think, I want to say my children are doctors or engineers, there's a father who said, I only want doctors and engineers in this house, nothing else. So anybody who is not a doctor, engineer, he said, useless. You look like your mother. Do you know that those doctors and engineers in that home are the most dysfunctional? I'm serious, real story. The doctors and engineers are the most dysfunctional. And those ones that the stone that was rejected, they are now the ones who are supporting that home, despite the fact that they looked like, they don't look like they will be successful. So it's important to realize that even if the child wants to be a sweeper or whatever, let's support, because you can be excellent in everything that you do to the honor and glory of God.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. Indeed, you can serve the Lord from wherever you are, so long as you're living your purpose and really doing it from a point of passion. Thank you, Dr. In fact, there's another question, again from a parent, Jane Angoki, and she asks, why do teens or youth leave the church? Where did we go wrong as parents? Dr.
Thank you so much. I saw that question and I was really praying that we get to it today, because I know it's a generic question. In terms of, I know it's a question many parents or many older people have. I've been asked that question in several churches and I have actually observed. Again, we go back home. So let's begin with the modeling. The observation that I have seen in many churches, when children begin cradle roll, kindergarten adventurers, they are maybe equal, boys and girls. They get to Pathfinder, there are more girls than boys. You can observe. There are more girls than boys when they get to Pathfinder. So one time when I went to a certain church and the parents asked me, I told them, I want to ask you, the fathers of these Pathfinder boys, where are they? Let's begin from there. What has been modeled? Have we feminized the church so that when my son is coming, he's seeing women bringing him to church, women teaching in the classes, women active, and for the men, they just have this honorable title of elder where they make technical appearances. No offense, by the way. They make technical appearances, but these other chores are done by women, So when they look at it, women arranging seats. I know it doesn't happen in New Life. It's women running helter-skelter, but elder just comes. So when he looks, he's like, I don't want to be like my mother. So they get to teenage, when they are moving out of femininity, they reject femininity, and they want to identify with masculinity, which is a normal process. So they will reject femininity with everything, including the church, because it has been feminized. So one church, when I asked, where are the fathers of these Pathfinder boys that have left church? The women just looked down, because they could see what I'm talking about. What are you modeling? Are you modeling that daddy just sits in the car reading Digger Classified or the Saturday newspaper? Mommy is the one in church. So naturally, it makes sense that the boys will also disappear somewhere and the girls will come here. So we begin from there in terms of what have we modeled. Then number 2, as Christians and indeed as Adventists, have we led our children to find God for themselves? Do they know the God of their life, or do they know the God of my mother, the God of their father? Did you know that I have realized, this is very sad, and maybe some people will be uncomfortable, but let me say, do you know that the most dysfunctional children are the most active in church? Did you know that? Did you know that? You know what happens? I want to see my child in uniform. I want to see my child marching. I want to see my child memorizing, the Bible. Nothing wrong. But I ask you, did the child want to do that? Or did you make them do because you want to feel good that my child can do this and because everybody else's child is doing it? Someday a child can tell you they don't want to come for practice. What do? Do you literally force them and beat them to submission? Is it for their best interest? Is it for the glory of God when you force a child? So it's important to understand. There are times I know my children have told me, I don't want to go and march. And then I've said, why? Then they say, what does marching help me? Nothing wrong with marching, but that is a discussion I had to have. They asked, what does marching help me? And I couldn't explain. They said, is marching one of the commandments? I said, no. Then I said, it's teaching you discipline and fitness. They said, let's go for swimming, because I will learn discipline in swimming and what have you. I said, okay. It actually makes sense. So at that point I said, you don't feel like, then it's okay, we go for swimming. So let's give our children opportunity to decide to know God for themselves and to own the word of God. And remember what we said, I think it was last Sabbath. Hyper-religiosity without a corresponding spirituality is a sign of mental illness. So sometimes when you force, because you want to see the child in uniform, you want to see them marching, you want them to go for camp out and camporees and everything, you just want to see, because you want to look like your child is active. We end up losing this child. So you find inside the child is dying, they have never been in church. When it comes to teenage, they refuse to come to church. Then we start saying, my child was so good and so active and memorizing the whole Bible. Then when they started walking to with elder so-and-so's child, actually not elder so-and-so, when they started walking with the child of that single mother, they have now refused church. But your child has never been in church. The body was in church. The spirit was at home watching cartoons the whole day. So do we just want to see bodies in church? Or do we want to have people who are in church with their spirits? So I want to just say as parents, let's critically look inward and ask ourselves, what were we modeling? Were we teaching our children to meet and to know God for themselves? Or was it because that's what everybody's doing and that's what is expected as Adventists? And so if we realize we may not have modeled Christ as it is, as I said, let's apologize, let's repent and say, you know what, my children, I misled you. Please forgive me. And let's begin a journey of forgiving one another and walking, this journey of salvation to know God for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari. Indeed. So, yes.
Let me say something to that. You've sparked a thought in me. Going back, I did say we are in the age of information. There's a lot that people now know. It's not like back then where our parents say, do A, we just say, yes, ma, yes, and we just do it. These days, you mentioned why people leave church. A lot of young people would say, they don't see the point. I call it the why of things. These days, if they don't see a logic, a point in doing what they do, they just throw it out of the window that this does not serve me, just like your child said, like, I don't see the point of matching. And we're in the day where people don't just do things for the sake of doing things anymore. If it doesn't serve me, what's the point of church? Why do I have to come to church? Why do I have to sit there? And if they don't have that relationship, like you said, knowing God for themselves. Someone said, Christ, God does not have grandchildren. He only has children. So you can't say, we can't live on, my mother's God, my parents' church. It's me knowing God for myself. And we look at young people and we think they don't have a mind of their own. But they do. We do. Young people do. And if you can sit and communicate with them and say, we do this because of this, we pay tithe because of this, we get baptized because of A and B, C, D, from the Bible, they can understand. And that's the one thing I love about Adventism, because Adventism explains a lot of these doctrines, why we do what we do, why we worship on Sabbath as opposed to Sunday. So it's time, again, as parents to explain, sit and have those conversations with our children to say the why of things, the why we do things, and not just like pushing them out there and say, it's just the way things, it's just tradition, it's just the way things have been done. So you just shut up and just follow. They will rebel. They'll get to a point where you cannot make a decision for them and they're out. So, thank you.
So let's not wear our children as a badge of honor that, yes, they stand in front there and they say the verse and your child cannot say the verse like my child. So let us again explain to them, as you have said, why we are doing this, what's the reason behind this. And I know of some young people who have told me they worship on Sabbath from 8 in the morning to 6 p.m., but they don't come to church. And I asked them, why don't you come to church? They said, well, we have a full program from Sabbath school to the end. The only thing we don't have is announcements. So they don't come to church because, as we said, they don't want your many announcements, but they are worshiping and truly worshiping from morning to the evening. And now I want us to yes, sorry, Jim, yes.
Sorry. I think the reasons that have been said are very good. I think the other one is the whole reality that we are in a faith conflict. And the fact that young people are equally making decisions for or against Jesus. And one of those things could be, as is described in the book of Psalms 73, which would quite tie with the point that we earlier on belabored on, the subject of instant gratification. And I'll just read a few verses here. It's a psalm of Asaph, and he says that truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. And speaking from a young man's point of view, the truth is, it's difficult to reconcile the fact that me being in church doesn't seem to be as prospering as my friend who is out there who is not in church. It's a difficult reconciliation to make. And I am glad that the psalmist actually offers a solution to this problem, because in the end, in verses 16, and I hope you appreciate the vulnerability in this text, really, because he says, when I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of God. Then understood I their end. And the point that the psalmist is making is, look at life from the end. What do you want to make of it? As a young person, what do you want to make of your life? The wicked seems to be prospering, but we know their end. Their end is definite. At least the Christian has the comfort of saying, I can't even configure the end. The Bible says, eye has not seen, neither the ear has heard what the end is going to be like. So, I will agree that beyond the reasons that they mentioned, there's also the element of the fact that we're in the great controversy, and people are making decisions in the process.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. I can see our time is fast moving, and I want us to just take our focus on something different. And Elder, I'd like to push this question to you. It's from one of our viewers, Zippy Kirandi, and her question was this: what can you do if a close relative abuses a young girl at the age of 2 years, and as a mother, you are asked not to expose the family? Again, badge of honor.
Thank you very much for the question. Allow me to wear my other hat and say that any form of abuse that either is emotional or physical or whatever form, sexual, whatever form it takes, that is criminalized needs to be dealt with as an offense. And so any person who talks you out of it, other than the victim, is abetting to a crime. We call them accessory after the fact. So the person is abetting to a crime. The person who abuses any other person in a way that is offensive needs to be dealt with in accordance with the law. Of course, you'd say that the grace of God is there to deal with this person. Let the grace of God deal with him, or her for that matter. But even if it's your husband or your wife or your sibling telling you that an abusive person should not be dealt with in accordance with the law, that is offensive. And we need to understand that the person who has violated, the law protects such a person in such a way that it is the state taking over the matter to prosecute the offender. Now, where is the place for the grace of God in this? Of course, in an ideal hostel or prison setting, we have we don't just punish, but we rehabilitate. And so in an ideal hostel or penal institution, there are measures meant to rehabilitate such a person to get back to their normal self. Of course, as a society, as a family, as a community, as a church, you also have a duty to get this person back to God. But the person needs to feel the weight of the law if that sort of act is provided in our penal code or whatever law as an offense. That is my clear-cut answer. ZP should not be conned into, forgiving this person, because the person who has been abused is a person. And it's that person who is feeling the weight of the abuse. They may be a toddler, but they'll grow up with that, and knowing that at some point they were abused. And so at some point they need to know that the offense or the act that was performed on them was at some point punished because it is an offense. But if they know that it is okay, the person was forgiven, the temptation normally is that person is most likely to be pushed to perform such acts because they know the society forgives. But if they know that, yes, I was violated, but the person was punished and punished heavily for doing that, then they know that that's a no-go area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you, Elder. And it brings me to the other question, Daktari, because, of course, now we are excusing and we are justifying that act. And we have seen that a lot of people, especially women and even men, are in abusive situations, and we've been asked to excuse that on basis of, the woman being abused or the man being abused is not of my tribe, is not from my community. Or, this woman is being abused because she wears a lot of makeup. Or this man is, or it's okay for us to excuse the man of infidelity because after all, it's the norm of men. What can you say to that?
I just want to say that it's unfortunate, just as the elder has said, most of the time the offender will keep doing that to other people. So the sad reality is that when we keep quiet, we actually, as I said, we encourage, we support, we tolerate, we extend, and we become part of it. No matter what anybody is telling you, no matter who that person is, name and shame. Let me tell you how serious it can be. There is a lady who it's a true story, she had a young child. So the husband, it's a baby girl, so the husband was changing the diaper at night. Then she realized he was gazing at her genitalia as he's changing. Then she asked, what are you staring at the baby? Then he said, I'm just I'm just wondering how another man is going to enjoy this. This is very uncomfortable, but I'm just saying it to make a statement. She picked that child at night and ran away at night. And she never came back, and she divorced that man. That's how it ended. Now, if you hear that, some people think it's very trivial, but she saw where it was going. There is a difference between sexual immorality and sexual criminality. Sexual immorality is sex between consenting adults. They can be members of the church. We disfellowship, we guide, we hope to redeem. It ends there. Adults consenting. Sexual criminality is whereby we have forced sex on somebody else, particularly if it's a child under 18 who has no authority to consent. In that case, please, even before we wait for church board to disfellowship, arrest that person. Don't even pray first. Arrest, take them to prison. Come and pray, then call for the church board. I'm saying this because I know this is happening in Adventist churches, and the leaders know. The pastor may not know, but you listening to me today, you know what has been happening, even here. And you're just quiet. Somebody has gone on abusing another person and another person because they are contributing the most money towards church building. Then we decide to keep quiet. I said this is very dangerous that I'm saying. I may not be invited here again, but I think I need to say. And this culture of saying that because somebody doesn't belong to that community, so that's why they are being abused, they use makeup, they have made their hair like how they wear witch shoes. This is victim shaming or blaming. You married this person. You knew they came from that community. They had their makeup, nothing wrong with that. Why did you marry them? To come and abuse. And then if you realize that you're not going in the same direction, I'm asking you, what is making you stay there? Please leave that person in peace and go your way. Do not abuse somebody. And so as church members, church leaders, when we want to make an excuse for an abuser, what exactly are we saying? What message are we sending? Because we are even having younger children, younger people who are observing, and we are saying we are excusing simply because the abuser seems to have influence and the victim doesn't have people of their community to support them. This is very sad. It's very unfortunate. And I want to say it's also part of the reason why we have our children and young people leave the church. Because young people come and ask me that what happens when people have been together married for 23 years, suddenly the marriage ends. And I tell them the marriage does not end suddenly. It ended a very long time ago. But, people were probably waiting for the opportune moment. So let's be honest. Let's be sincere. If we know this is happening, let's hold abusers to account. And at that point, they will change. And then we also read the camp of the sin of Achan. And we are not saying anybody is perfect, but we are saying let's redemptively and lovingly have people be accountable for criminal acts particularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Indeed, silence is not spoken here. Let's not be quiet about this. Let us speak up. Let us be courageous and stand up for the rights of our children, our spouses, our families. Now, I want us to wrap up. And in just 30 seconds from Blessing, please, what are your closing remarks in less than 30 seconds?
Okay. Less than 30 seconds. I think mentorship. Let me focus on mentorship. Mentorship, as young people, let's reach out to older people to mentor us, because we cannot live in the bubble. We need a community. And then older people, please reach out to the younger people. Elijah and Elisha. Elijah reached out to Elisha, and Elisha was positioned in a place to be found. So we need mentorship. The older ones should mentor, and I say this to women as well. Older women look for mentees. Older men look for younger men to mentees, and vice versa. The young people, please reach out to older people to be mentored. Yes.
Thank you, Elder.
Any form of camouflaged success that is not worked for is not success, and so we need to be diligent. We need to work hard and know that we cannot get benefits unless we are responsible enough. And for our Christian or family setting, that responsibility, I know I'm a victim in this, that responsibility needs to be inculcated early enough in life. at the family. When we raise people who are committed to mission at the family level, because the family is the first post for mission, then the church will not have these many challenges that we are grappling with. So let's focus our attention, daddies, mummies, children, teens. Let's have our home as the first post for mission, and let's respect each other and know that we have a duty here as Christians to evangelize the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder. Jim, your closing remarks?
I think the questions we've talked about this afternoon border the bigger question of life, of what is God's will for my life, especially for the young person. And my thoughts on that are that God is original. He doesn't copy someone's experience for the other. And sometimes we despise the original work that God is doing in our own lives. And so my prayer is that we will believe that God is actually working to bless us with the best of blessings within the fastest time possible.
Thank you very much, Jim. Dr. I
just want to say that let's break the silence. Stories must be told. In Kiswahili we say, toa sauti usikike. Let's lift up our praying knees. Let's stand on our praying legs. Let's lift our holy hands and let's stretch it and let's walk the talk. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much, our panelists. Thank you, our viewer. We want to throw this back to you to take responsibility. We want to ask you to stand up and be courageous. Be counted. Do not stand up for sin, but condemn sin by the greatest ever force. I want to end with a quote from Ellen G. White that says, "The greatest want of the world is the want of men," and of course this is men, youth, and women, "who will not be bought or sold, men who in their inmost souls are true and honest, men who do not fear to call sin by its right name, who are conscious, whose conscience is true to duty, and men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall." Our dear viewer, we want to thank you for having us. We want to wish you a very good evening, and we want to ask you to take up the mantle. Be courageous. Do not condone silence. Be courageous. Stand up and be counted. Happy Sabbath.
Savior is Jesus, my Lord, a wonderful Savior to me. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock, where rivers of pleasure I see. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock. The shadows are dry, thirsty land. He hideth my life in the depths of his love, and covers me there with his hand. His hand, and covers me there with his hand. With marvelous blessings each moment he crowns, and filled with his fullness divine. I sing in my rapture, oh glory to God, for such a redeemer, for such a redeemer, for such a redeemer as mine. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock. The shadows are dry, thirsty land. He hideth my life in the depths of was a dry, thirsty land. He hideth my life in the depths of His love, and covers me there with His hand, and covers me there with His hand, and covers me there with His hand, and covers me there with His hand.
Hello, dear viewer. Welcome to 2CBN TV. My name is Lydia, presenting to you the poetry segment. Today's poem is about the Proverbs 31 verse 10 onward woman, and it's titled